Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. Before I get started, I want to be sure and say, if you're enjoying our videos, by all means, please subscribe and don't forget to click on the little bell so that you get notified with an audible sound every time there's a new video on our channel. Okay, let's get started. In our last video, I did I did hopefully a nice little introduction of Baby Doll, so you could be more familiar with her. I've used her in several videos, and people were interested in seeing her, so I showed her. But there's a few high points, little things that come up now and again that need to be adjusted, and most people are interested in learning how to do those adjustments. So let's get into it. Right now, what we're going to adjust is the shifter. This is a hand shift bike. And what I really wanted to explain more than anything today was to dispel the myth of the suicide shift. First off, with all due respect, there's no such thing as a suicide shift. Unless it's some sort of a movement a person makes right before they kill themselves. I don't know. There is such a thing as a suicide clutch. This is a hand shift. This is a factory hand shift or a tank shift, whatever you wish to call it, but it is a factory shifter. The knob that's on it is a Bakelite knob. It's an antique Bakelite knob from an old house. It was a doorknob. One of the things cool about these shift levers is the thread on it is 3/8 fine, which is the same as a whole lot of antique doorknobs. That's why quite often you'll see the crystal glass doorknobs from old houses on jockey shifts and things, which brings up another question. What's a jockey shift? This is a hand shift or a tank shift. A jockey shift would be if we took this lever off of here and this linkage off of here, and we moved it right down here, right off of the transmission lid, and attached a lever there. Pretty common. Certainly old chopper style. I've ridden a lot of those, and there's still a lot of them out there. A lot of fun to ride. The next thing is, of course, the clutch pedal. Now, the clutch pedal, this is commonly referred to as a rocker or treadle clutch pedal. This disengages the clutch, and this re-engages the clutch. Now, as the pedal goes over center, this spring right here holds it in position. Now, if we were to remove that spring, the only spring action we would have would be the springs that are in the clutch. And as we know, we've shown it in other videos, there's 10 little clutch springs on the pressure plate that operate that clutch. So if we had just the springs in the clutch and we removed this spring, then when we work this pedal, it wouldn't stay in position without holding it there with my foot. That pedal, if I stepped off of it, would take off, would cause the motorcycle to take off in traffic. Hence the term suicide clutch. It's not suicide shift, it's suicide clutch. Now, most guys, I say most, not all of them, guys and girls, most guys and girls that do a jockey shift do a suicide clutch. In other words, a pedal that may work just like this, only half of it here with the rod attached up here, and to disengage it, you would push it down. But if you took your foot off, the clutch would re-engage and the bike would shoot right out into traffic. They're a lot of fun too. I really do like riding with a suicide pedal. Okay? So we're talking about a suicide clutch, not a suicide shift. Okay, now we'll get all that being cleared up. I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments on it. Now that we have that all cleared up, let's go on to this hand shift here. Now, we've done clutch adjustments on previous videos. And we've done chain and belt adjustments and all that sort of thing, but we haven't adjusted a shift lever. Now, one of the things about these shift levers is they pivot on a bronze bushing and a bolt right here. And there's another pivot point right here from the lever onto the rod that goes back to the transmission to shift it. And all those things need to be lubed periodically. So let's get into that first. Not too difficult. Let's do the top one first. I haven't done this one in quite a while, and it could probably use some grease. But it has a proper bolt on it. I'm sure it's a reproduction, but it's proper, and it's very nicely made. So I'm going to take it apart, wipe it off, and lube it. I want to do this carefully. I don't want to cause any scratches or messes or things. Now, one of the things, this is kind of old technology. These are called wave washers. And I like to use them because they'll keep things from rattling. Now, wave washers are not real easy to find anymore. Indian used to use them on their linkage. And the fun part is, I get them at the local hardware store, and they're really intended for Volkswagens. So you want to look in the metric section for them. Take the bolt with you, and then go through their metric section and see if you can find wave washers. My local hardware store carries them, and that makes me pretty happy. Now, I can't get that bolt out of there without taking the crossover line for the fuel tank off. So what I'm going to do is get my finger in there and lube that bolt up without removing it. Kind of a shame. Next time I have the tanks off, I'll clean that out real good. Sounds like I'm promising Baby Doll something she may or may not get, but that's what I like to do, is clean things and lube things. And they work so much better. So I'm going to lube the face of this here. And I'm also going to lube the wave washers. Lubing is way cool for this. Then we'll put those wave washers back in place. And there where the shift lever goes on, where it goes on to the bolt, clean it off a little bit, put a little grease on it so that it slides real nice on there. Believe me, when this is all done, all lubed up like that, it's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure. But that bolt is a step bolt, so that when this is all tightened up, the lever still moves freely back and forth. So let's tighten that nut. And there it is. Now we'll go to the next one. Next one down is this joint here. And we'll just take this bolt and nut off of here. Once we get it off, a little easier to get out of there than the other one would have been. And looks like I put another wave washer in there last time I was in there. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about wave washers, and I don't have a whole lot of information except to say that they are spring steel. I've used them in linkage for years and years. It's not an original idea, but it really keeps this stuff from rattling, and that's pretty nice. So now we're going to put that bolt back through there. Maybe put a little bit of grease on the face of this link right here. All right. There we go. Now, should probably wipe this off too. And then put a little grease on it. A little grease on the wave washer, and we're going to put it back together again, but not tight. Now, this one's really not even a wave washer I put in here. It must be what's working though. It's like a little shim of some sort I came up with. There we go. Now we're going to put the nut back on here, but not very tight. And the reason for that is when we go to make this adjustment, we're going to have to take that out and turn this, or turn the whole rod down here. Now, once this piece of linkage is in place, you don't get it off without pulling the inner primary. So any adjustment there will have to be turning the whole rod. Makes it hard. What you want to do is leave yourself enough thread in here when you assemble it so that the next time you go to adjust it, it's not too difficult. Okay, moving right along. I think this one was adjusted pretty well, but what we're going to do is I jack the bike up off the lift, and we're in neutral, and now we're going to pull this lever into first gear. And it went into first gear and left me with a little slack there still, which means I know that it went in all the way. Now, if in fact it didn't, then what I would have to do is loosen the lock nut, take this bolt off of here, take the nut off, and then slide the bolt out from the back side. And at that point, I could move this link right here to either lengthen or shorten it to get the right kind of play in my shifting assembly here. Sounds like the cameraman's phone's going off, and he got it. He stopped it. It was his turn. It was mine last time, so this time it happened to him. Now I don't feel so guilty. Okay, I'm going to tighten this up, and I'm going to shift it through all the way. There's neutral. There's neutral. There's first. And again, I've got play in there, so I know it's going to go in all the way. There's second, third, and fourth. And that's all very good. And I'm pleased. Now, I'd like to add a couple other things here. First off, when the Panhead came out, they changed the shift pattern from what knuckleheads and flatheads had before that. Back in the day, if you were shifting a knucklehead with a tank shift, first gear was up here, fourth gear was back here. So what they found out was it was easier to shift forward, to start in first gear back like this, and then go forward. Now, to keep you from going too far, they notched the shift gate, which is something I really like. When this thing came out, I've talked to guys who were around when these first came out. I wasn't there to watch them first come out. I do remember looking at new Panheads on the showroom floor with my dad, though, when I was a kid. Okay, here's first gear, and when you go to second, you could slam that right in there, and that notch would stop you, so you didn't go too far. I still get a little funky once in a while and have a tendency to do that. Same thing with third. If you hold that lever to the right, you're pushing it in from the left, and you push it forward, keeping it locked against the side of the shift gate, you won't go too far. I know the guys that are following me are always trying to figure out how I'm doing that. So now they know. I guess that'd be cameraman Mike. Anyway, that's it for today. My shifter is adjusted. I'm happy, and I want to go for a ride. So I hope we learned something today, and we'll come up with something for next time. So until then, see you out on the road.